Last weekend, I released a video on the types of feedback and how can you grow using those feedbacks and the constructive criticism that you get. But after that video, I got a lot of messages like, hey Madhav, how can we know which feedback should we work upon and which feedback should we ignore? And that's an amazing question because not every feedback deserves your attention. Not every criticism deserves your time, and we should be very selective about the feedbacks that we choose to work upon, and those should be only the ones which result in our growth and improvement. So, how to know which one should we ignore? I talked about one such scenario in my previous video as well, but today I am going to discuss about the 7 types of feedback which you should definitely ignore whenever you get them. So without any further delay, let's get started. And if you are new to my channel, do subscribe to my channel, which is youtube.com/thereenprogrammer, and do like, share and comment on this video so that it can reach and help more people. So as I also talked about this in my previous video, that whenever something comes from a single source, it is opinion. But when it comes from multiple sources, now that is called feedback. So the first type of feedback which you should definitely ignore is when it comes from a single person or a single source. Second type of feedback which you should ignore is when it is coming from a single source but it is completely different from all the other feedbacks. For example, taking the Jimmy's example as always, for example, let's say a person, Jimmy, is working in an office and every colleague says that, Jimmy, you are doing amazing work. Even Jimmy's boss says that, Jimmy, you are doing an amazing work, great work. But one random employee just comes to Jimmy and says that, hey Jimmy, your work in XYZ project was not up to the mark. I don't think it was good and you should definitely improve. Now, this small comment can demotivate Jimmy, and even if it does not demotivate Jimmy, it will somehow leave some impression in his mind that, oh, my work was not that good if someone had to come to me and say that. Now, in this scenario, it is clearly obvious that everyone likes his work, but this one person does not like it. So it's just his opinion, and opinions can be relative and biased. So we should not care too much about opinions. We should care about feedback. Feedbacks help us grow, whereas opinions can sometimes lead us to the opposite path. They can prove to be destructive for our growth. Now, the third type of feedback which you should definitely ignore is when it is too generic or too vague. Taking the same example where Jimmy's random colleague came to him and said that, hey, your work with XYZ project was not up to the mark. Now, in this particular remark, he cannot figure out what was wrong with this project. In this scenario, whenever you get these kinds of feedback on your work, do ask that person that, hey, what was wrong in that project? Can you let me know? It will really help me grow. So this simple thing can actually help you figure out how can you improve. But still, if the person says that, I am not sure what was wrong in this particular work you did, but somehow it felt that it could be improved. It was not just up to the mark. These are the worst kinds of feedback because they are not telling you what was wrong in your work, and rather they will just leave an impression in your mind that there is something wrong with the quality of the work that you are putting in. So no matter what, just ignore all the vague feedbacks. A real feedback is always an actionable thing that can help you improve and grow. Now, the fourth type of feedback which you should definitely ignore is when it is coming from someone who always opposes you or someone who always stands against you no matter what, even if it's right or wrong. So this particular person, most probably, either he hates you or he is jealous of you or he is of some negative attitude who just wants to oppose everyone. In this particular scenario, if you start thinking about his feedback, you could end up losing more time than gaining the actual value. So it is safe to actually ignore these kind of feedbacks when it comes from a person who genuinely hates you or is jealous of you, or maybe generally stands against you no matter what you do. Now, the fifth type of feedback is quite similar. You should always ignore a feedback when it is coming from a person who is in general negative about everything. He always acts as a critic to everything he sees, and he tends to never like anything. In these particular scenarios, just listen to his comment, and if it is some actionable thing which he is saying that your work needs improvement in this and this domain, then think about it, ask from other people. But if it seems to be completely illogical, just ignore it no matter what, because you don't want to end up wasting your time on a person's comment which is something completely illogical, and the person is somehow always negative about whatever he sees or whatever he does. Now, the sixth type of feedback which you would probably want to ignore is when it is coming from an unrelated source or an unknown source. For example, let's say you put up some content on some social media platform, and some random guy comes to you in your comment section and says that this is the worst content I have seen, this is that. He is not even producing content, and he is just probably another hater. You should definitely ignore him. Always rely on trusted and credible source. Now let's take another relatable example. Let's say that you go to gym regularly, and now your gym trainer is saying that you should probably lower the diet that you take, or maybe increase the amount of exercise that you are doing, or something like that. You should definitely act upon his advice, because first, he is credible, he is someone you trust, and he has experience in that particular field or domain which you are trying to do. But let's say now some random person comes to you in your gym, and I bet that it must have happened with you, comes to you in your gym and says, oh, this is not how you do that exercise. Put up more plates, put up more weight, and drink more protein shake, eat more protein related diet, and so on. So you should probably ignore his advice, because you don't know, firstly, you don't know who he is, and secondly, you are not even sure whether he has enough experience or not in that particular field or domain. So listen to your gym trainer and not some random guy in the gym who is working out with you. Now, the seventh type of the feedback which you should definitely ignore is very simple, the feedback which seems to be illogical. Now, we can take thousands of examples, but at the end of the day, you also know that whenever we get any criticism, it is very easy to identify that if it is something completely illogical and completely unrelated to our work. And it happens a lot of people, just for the sake of saying something, or just for the sake of commenting on your work, are going to say these things, and these will be completely unrelated to the work that you have done. So just ignore these feedback. At the end of the day, you have to save your time, so don't engage in these types of conversations, or with these comments, or with these criticisms and feedbacks. So use your brain and identify which types of feedback seem illogical to you and completely unrelated to your domain, and which seem to be some actionable tips. Firstly, some actionable tips. Secondly, which are said by multiple sources about your work. Now, these two things can help you know what are the areas where you can grow and what you should be working on next. So that's it for today. I hope you like the video. If you like the video, do share this with your friends as well, and do subscribe to my channel youtube.com/The Lean Programmer for weekly content, and do subscribe to my newsletter as well, which is tinyletter.com/The Lean Programmer. See you in the next video next weekend. Bye bye.